Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. And our special guest today is Emmanuel McFarland. We're going to get to him in just a moment. Before we do, I just want to say thank you to Logan Landers, our producer and engineer. I also want to say to our co-host and founder, Vincent Turner. Vincent, this is the time when the spring leaves are coming, the flowers are budding, the birds are chirping out there. And for football fans, this is the renewal. And to me, this is actually the very first step, not so much free agency, but the draft, the NFL draft, which is tomorrow, is the day that the 2025 season is birthed, and that everybody goes from being happy. They've got a little skip in their giddy up, and they've got all the energy, but then they start giving their opinion, and before you know it, someone at the end of the night is probably going to throw their hat down and be really upset because somebody is not available to be picked. But Vincent, this is what a great time of the year.
It's always a blessing, man. This is one of my favorite, I would say, parts of my time this time of year. You got the draft. Tomorrow night, you're going to have so many people, families. And today we got a special guest because this gentleman covers the Atlanta Falcons. So you play for the Falcons. We got a guy that's in depth with the Falcons. What more can I say? It reminds me, like, I believe the 2001 draft when they drafted a young man out of Virginia Tech by the name of Michael Vick, overall #1. Think about the excitement it was then. The city was on fire. That's how I feel today. 100 yards of football is going to be on fire like the Ohio players. Back to you, Harper.
Yeah, you had grandmas that were jumping up in the air when we picked Michael Vick here in Atlanta. There was, you're right about the excitement there. And the guy who's been around long enough to feel the pain, but also the victories of Atlanta sports, and especially with the Falcons. Emmanuel McFarland joins us today. And Emmanuel, first and foremost, welcome. You've got your own show that you have, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But thank you first and foremost for being a guest and giving us so much of your time here today on our pre-draft special that we're having.
Guys, thank you for having me. It's more than a pleasure and an honor to actually sit in with a Falcon fan, a historian, and Mr. Turner. I tell you, just talking to Mr. Turner, it's been enlightening to say the least. And then now I get the chance to sit in on and share the same stage with a former Falcon player that of a team that I have done so much for. And Mr. Vincent, I know you were talking about the excitement of drafting Michael Vick. A lot of people don't know the excitement when we drafted Mr. Steve Bartkowski.
Oh, we lost Emmanuel. You're going to have to rejoin us. We had a little bit of a connection issue just before we went on the air. He'll be with us in just a second. Vincent, while we're waiting, I wasn't aware of some of the shows that were out there as much as you are. You're spending a lot more time, but I think it's fascinating that fans or non-broadcasters, and neither of us are broadcasters, are able to talk about our favorite team or talk about our favorite sport in a way like what Emmanuel's doing. He's got Come On In Sports Network that he put together, and his show is called the Falcons Fandemic. It started from scratch about the same time that I joined you, but discuss just a little bit about, how this gets started and how an idea, especially through the internet and through podcasting, how someone like you was able to put that together.
I think when you look at it, everybody has dreams out there. And I said social media is taking guys that watch the ESPNs of the world and say, hey, I can do this. I can be the next star. I can start dreaming. And then what you happen is everybody and their mother wants to have a podcast covering the draft, covering football, covering basketball, covering baseball. But this is the one thing. A lot of people think you're going to be an overnight sensation. That's not going to happen. What I learned, and with me when I got started with this on Facebook and YouTube through Mr. Jeremiah Long, through Mr. Ronnie Keebler, it's something that Mr. Keebler always says to me. If this is what you really want to do, it don't matter what network you're on, don't matter what podcast you're on, you're going to put the work in. And what's so exciting I think everything has changed over the years for us, for me personally, in putting this project together, because I always believe you got to have good people. You got to have people who are going to play their role in the situation. And me personally, I've always been a guy like history, but also too, in order to be great, whether you're on TV, whether you're on podcasts, you got to have a front man. You got to have like a Robert Plant with Led Zeppelin, or Maurice White with Earth, Wind, and Fire. Mm-hmm. And this year has been very special here at 100 Yards Football, because we have finally found that front man. He's standing right in front of him, Mr. Harper LeBel. And see, when you have that, then everything else is clicking. And then this past week, I've seen so many other platforms that say they're going to have an NFL draft show. Not ESPN now. About 2 years ago, everybody be saying, hey, man, I'm going to be watching ESPN on social media. Hey, man, you're going to watch Mel Kiper Jr. Not this week. Everybody's saying they're going to have their own show. I know people saying they're going to be in Key West, Florida this week. They're going to be live. I know somebody, another network, saying they're going to be down here in a certain section of Atlanta. But starting this, it's been a dream come true. And all I can say is I'm ready to go on Thursday night with a very good team, and the best team I've been ever blessed with. And it started with the front man, Robert Plant, Led Zeppelin, Mick Jagger, Rolling Stones. We got one, Mr. Harper LeBel.
Well, appreciate the compliment. One day I hope to deserve it. But thank you in the meanwhile. There's a thing, and I'm going to ask Emmanuel when we get him back up on the screen. Logan, help us out. Let us know if that's going to be taking place here in the next minute or two. The idea and the concept behind, hey, I think I can do that. That's pretty easy. But a lot of folks don't know what to do or how to do it. Do I need to buy a camera? Do I use my laptop? Yeah. Do I use my phone? How do I take direction, if you will? Like someone's going to say, no, you don't do that. You got to do this. And you got to have it this angle and the amount of light that you have in the back. All these little things that most people aren't aware of that will hopefully make it easier. But there are some difficult things that you need to do, and then there's some easy things to do. I'm just going to talk about my favorite team or about my favorite player or my favorite sport. Mm-hmm. That's the easy part. But getting other guests to be on and making sure that the production and how do you get that out into the open, those are some of the things that are not so easy, are they, Vincent?
No, a lot of times you got to learn how to get certain images on within the show. That's very professional. You got to learn how. One thing about this process is a lot of times to the internet, you got to have a good working internet. Make sure you got your, whatever they call it, your MPOs up. But it's a lot more production that has to go into it. And once you get that facet kind of worked out, then everything else is clicking into place. If you really love what you're doing, then the researching, producing, all that goes hand in hand. It's almost like in having your own TV show, but just at another level.
Yeah.
It
is a television show, or at least it's a television type production because you're watching it. And there's a tremendous amount of work that goes into, and with anything, we just had Jackie Sherrill on the show, and I asked Jackie at one point, I said, you've got all these little kids that you're working with and trying to help establish youth programs, whether it be football, basketball, baseball, hockey, soccer, doesn't matter, just a place where kids can play. And the amount of time that a kid spends, I tease Vincent, when my daughter was 5, she started playing soccer, and I would tease with other parents that have 5-year-olds that have played soccer. I go, it's like they're all little bumblebees just chasing the ball. They're all around each other, and they don't have an idea of how to spread out and how to play, and that's fine. My son, when he was 5 and he played baseball, when a ball was hit in the outfield, he'd go tackle the outfielder that had the ball and keep him from being able to throw it in. He doesn't understand the rules. So that was his dad being a bad coach, I guess. But there's infancy with everything, and you develop with the amount of time and the quality of the time that you do. You take any show, you take any project, you're going to get better when you invest into it.
It's no question about it. And I think most of all, you have to have a certain passion about it. You have to believe, you have to really love what you're doing. And once all that happens, then usually whether or not you're making any money or not, you're going to be happy because within yourself, you know, you're putting out your best effort and you love what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we want to talk about the draft. We're certainly going to do that here today. And we're going to look at a little bit of the what I would consider to be the top prospects, where they might go, and do that in correlation with the teams in the NFC South. We start with Tennessee. Obviously, that's not an NFC South team. Cleveland gets the next pick. After that, you got the New York Giants. And then you got to wait a little bit before, at number 8, Carolina comes in. Do you have any first impressions about, Carolina themselves, just as the organization? Anything about, obviously, their quarterback situation? They've got 2 guys, but none of them is really. Bryce Young had a better second half of the season than the first half, but boy, there were some people that wanted his head on a plate, so to speak. I think they have some need on the line, offensive and defense. Who doesn't? But just talk a little bit about Carolina. They're picking 8th overall. Anything in particular stand out with you regarding that team and the organization?
Well, you brought up a good point. I'm very happy that Bryce Young played very well at the end of the season, because early on, I didn't know whether or not he would be able to make it the rest of the year. Really, I didn't know what Carolina was talking about bringing him back, because he did not play well at the beginning, but he ended up very well. When you're looking at the Panthers, it's no question about it, they finished last in defense in the National Football League. And to me, I can't understand that, because they got a pretty good defensive tackle in Derrick Brown. So with the first pick, if I'm the Carolina Panthers on the board, I'm drafting the home state guy, Jalen Walker, out of the University of Georgia, Buckus Award winner. And I don't keep words very long here on 100 Yards Football. Put on the Texas game film and see how he worked Kevin Banks. That night, three sacks, 8 tackles, 2 forced fumbles. I don't have to say no more. Back to you, Harp. That's who I think the Panthers are going to go with.
What a ball game. Yeah. Edge is one of their big needs. Losing Brian Burns the way they did. They were 5-12 last year, and New Orleans is picking right behind them. They were 5-12. I think the bigger drop off is from where the Saints finished up. That to me was more of a surprise. They end up firing their coach. Dennis Allen doesn't make it through the season. They're going to go with a young new guy who played at Boise State and had a great college career, has been working his way up the ranks. Last year was with Dallas. So new things in New Orleans. How much work do you think they need to do before they get back to the point where they were a consistent winner in the NFC South? Is it going to be just a couple of guys, or is this going to be a long project, in your opinion, if you're a Houdat and a Saints fan?
I think the most important decision with the new coach, Kellen Moore, coming over from Dallas, then coming over from Philadelphia, young guy, played at Boise State. He's going to want to come in with his own player at the quarterback position. Now, what's been very, very strange for over, I would say, 2 weeks, Shedeur Sanders, everybody saying he was going to go to the Saints with the number 1 pick, 9th pick overall. But now, all of a sudden, I heard something on Monday that Jackson Dart is Kellen Moore's man. So I'm saying, okay, what we doing here in New Orleans? But I think the Saints still got a lot of good talent on their team. I think injuries hurt them a lot last season. And, of course, I didn't think Dennis Allen was that much of an excellent football coach. But they still got Chris Avellay, who's one of the top young receivers in the game. Don't think Alvin Kamara don't have a lot of tread still left on his, I want to say, vehicle. And then you got Cameron Jordan, who still, I think, is a quality veteran, even though he's his 14th year in the league, and they still got Chase Young. To me, the pick here for the Saints, if they don't go quarterback or not, will be a cornerback, because they lost Marshawn Lattimore, who they traded to Washington in midseason. Yeah. I like Will Johnson, the big guy from Michigan, 6'2", 200 pounds. I think he'd be a perfect fit if the Saints don't go quarterback.
Yeah, there's so many things there that you mentioned, Vincent, that yes, discombobulated, from what they're used to. The Drew Brees era is over, obviously, but how do you continue with the same type of success with different personnel? And, well, then you better get a quarterback. And I think the dynamic between the Derek Carr, it's not so much the money, but I think it's just something else that's a disconnect there. And then Spencer Rattler. I mean, imagine both of those guys saying, yeah, we're either going to get Shador, or they might go with Dart. They might go with Will Howard. There's a couple of different ways that you can go. They could trade down and do something like that, trade up. I'm not exactly sure. But if you're a quarterback in New Orleans right now, I would think that my future there is very, very short.
Like I said, the Saints, to me, new coach coming in one more time, Kellen Moore. Obviously, Derek Carr said he's not going to be available for this season, but there's a lot more to that. Obviously, they're not sold on Spencer Rattler. And as I'm going to mention again, I can understand Kellen Moore. He wants his own man under center.
Yeah.
Outside Will Johnson, who they really, I think, need to pick. And I think they need to really kind of more or less stay with Spencer Rattler as their starting quarterback. They take Jackson Dart. That seems like the pick. The Saints still have a lot of good players on their roster. And I don't think the NFC South, we clearly have a team that's dominant, like, let's say, the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC East. But I'm going to go with my pick. I think they take Will Johnson, the corner out of Michigan, and I think Kellen Moore changes his mind. I think he's going to go a year with Spencer Rattler.
Yeah, they could. They may not. It just depends. But I think if you're Kellen Moore, you buy some extra time if you go, look, we're going to go with this guy. He's going to be our quarterback, whoever it is that you mentioned. You had Chris Olave. You mentioned Alvin Kamara, Rashid Shaheed. There's another guy, Juwan Johnson. They've got some talented guys that any quarterback should be able to get the ball to. It's just a matter, in my opinion, of whether or not he has the time to do so. And Taysom Hill. I'm staying on the Saints a little bit longer, but Taysom Hill was a guy, boy, he was a thorn in the sides of the Falcons. He seemed to always have his greatest games whenever they would play. But will that be an aspect of their offense that they carry over? That was a thing that you had to prep for. And great success, like I said, against the Falcons. Falcons fans will be the first to go. They can, man, you get that guy off the field. Just get him off, because he's beating us up. But if Kellen Moore says, no, I don't want to do that, does that, they lose that aspect, or do they just do it against the Falcons? But again, a lot of weapons there in New Orleans. Give me another situation where if they, and I love Will Johnson, my goodness, for him to be as high up as you have him there, to go number 9 overall, that'd be, what a gift. But the guy that's 6'2", he's amazing how fast he is, all kinds of other things that he brings to the table.
New Orleans, like I said, I don't think they many players away, but I will say this. No matter what they do, I still think they got a lot of quality pieces within their football team. I mentioned Chase Young. I mentioned Cameron Jordan. I still think he got some play left in him. I like Chris Olave, obviously one of the best young receivers in the game. The other gentleman on the other side, I can't think his name right now, the speed guy they have. But this is New Orleans. Of course, he was the guy that had a couple of touchdowns over 40 yards. But this is a team that's not a lot of pieces away, and it wouldn't be surprising if they turn around. And then Kellen Moore, you look what he's done in Philadelphia, all the offensive pieces he had. Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, and what did that happen? Super Bowl champion.
Yeah.
Back to you, Harper.
Well, we have Emmanuel McFarland join us again. Thank you, Emmanuel. I know I had some technical issues, but first, welcome back to the show. It's great to have you on.
Thanks so much. It's a pleasure to be here, guys, and I appreciate it. Being patient with me. It seems like I came in on the tail end of the NFC South there, and I want to finish off the Carolina Panthers comment that Vincent started with. The Carolina Panthers has a lot of issues, and as a lot of teams, all of the teams in the NFC South does. A lot of holes everywhere. So going into the draft, we can pretty much pick from any position and address the issue that each one of us have. But the Carolina Panthers specifically, Bryce Young, like you said, coming to the tail end of the season there, you saw a lot of promise from Bryce Young. It seemed like at the first beginning of the season that everything was going haywire for the Carolina Panthers. But coming down to the stretch there,
They seem to have gotten it together a little bit. Their 5-12 record doesn't look like anything was happening positive for them there. But at the same time, you saw a lot of, it was how they lost. It seemed like chemistry was coming into play. The run game picked up. But I don't see the problem, and they still scored points. But I don't see the problem being on the offensive side. It looked like it was primarily from the defensive side, especially when they came to play like the Falcons. Even though they beat us, we were able to do what we wanted to do with them, except come out on the winning edge of it. But the Carolina Panthers, on the defensive side, just like the Atlanta Falcons, need to be looking at an edge rusher or a linebacker. And I think coming out of this draft, and I hate to say it because I like this guy that I picked for them, Jalen Walker out of Georgia, 6'2", 245, very nice.
We're going to try to get Emmanuel back. We lost the sound. We still have the video of him. And Emmanuel, I don't know if you can hear me at all, but we'll talk about that specific portion of a draft pick. And Walker is one of those guys that I'm absolutely amazed at how good he is. Logan, if you can come back in right now and just let me know real quick, is this a quick fix for us to be able to get the audio back up?
Let me give him a call here real quick, and let's see if we can get here going.
All right. While you're doing that, we'll finish up. Vincent and I, if you don't mind, Vincent, going back to the Saints again, 5-12. Here's one of the things about New Orleans that I found interesting is they were $50 million over the cap about 2 months ago. A lot of guys that they have big paychecks to want to come to New Orleans and stay there. And now they're $27 million. They're 15th in the league right now, if you're going to rank. And this is from yesterday. I know there's some signings that are still going on, and there's some budgetary moves. But basically saying New Orleans has really fixed that debt that they had to where now they've got $27 million to spend. It's not just free agency, though. I'm looking at their roster right now, and I'm seeing wide receiver, cornerback, edge, guard, and quarterback are the positions of need most immediately. And again, this is just with New Orleans. Your perspective in terms of, is that an accurate assessment, or are there other things that are out there that I think that they need to address as well? What's your perspective there?
My perspective is that they're either going to go with a quarterback, or I'm going to stay on the last perspective, corner. And I think the Saints, when you look at their roster, I think they still have a lot of good players where they can be really a team that can challenge in the NFC South. I don't think they need to drop. I didn't know that they had that much money in their salary cap, which is good. But I think they're sitting good. You bring in a first-year head coach that offensively look like he has some talent. He's done well when he's had talent around him. Remember, this is a guy that was in Dallas with Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper. This guy was calling plays, and Ezekiel Elliott. Then you go to Philly. Last year, he did an outstanding job. That's why he got the job in New Orleans. So this is a New Orleans Saints team. I don't think they far from challenging for the division this year. Obviously, the biggest question, quarterback or corner. They still got good players. Chase Young, Carl Gradison, Alvin Kamara, I think is still a quality player. Kool-Aid McKenzie. They still got the Honey Badger. So this is a team that can be very, very competitive. And most of all, when you know this, Harper, when you bring in a new coach, what is the situation when a new coach comes in, especially a young one? Energy.
Yeah.
Back to you, Harper.
Play hard. Yeah, I completely agree. Emmanuel, good to have you back. Sorry again about sometimes you've got cable, Wi-Fi, internet issues, and that's been obviously the case on our show a couple of times. We're still talking about New Orleans. We took a breather from Carolina for a second. Okay. If Travis Hunter is the number one wide receiver / cornerback, and let's be honest, he's the only one that does both. But if he's listed as the number one cornerback, There's some folks that would be saying that, the number 2 overall in terms of cornerback would be Will Johnson, 6'2", 203-4 pounds, number 2 cornerback overall.
Okay.
I'm not sure if the Saints are leaning quarterback first, but if I'm picking ninth and if I don't get the first guy, I better be getting the second best player at that position. I'm hoping I get the top guy. What are your thoughts in terms of, the Saints, new coach, new perspective? I think he buys some time in terms of his contract. If he waits another year or two, if he picks a quarterback that's going to need if he goes with a rookie that's going to take some time to develop.
Yeah. Well, I totally agree. The Saints right now don't have a face right now. With Alvin Kamara probably on his downward slope, with the new coach, David Carr being the focus of news, and it's all negative. I think they need something to create that buzz that's back in New Orleans, and I think going with an all around player like a Travis Hunter would be that focus. And Travis Hunter, I mean, he has created a buzz around the NFL over the last couple of days. Outside of Cam Ward, definitely going number 1. Travis Hunter is like, I see teams trying to move up to get him. I think even Atlanta has got into the mix now. Teams trying to move up, create scenarios where they can draft a player like a Travis Hunter. It's not very often you come across a player like Travis. I think the last player that when you want to talk about multiple positions, multiple ways they contribute to the team, both sides of the ball, was Deion Sanders. And, when you get a player like that, you can't help but create a buzz and bring back that energy and a player that you can build around. And I see that in Travis Hunter.
Well, Emmanuel, I noticed that Travis has said recently, he goes, I am like the Shohei Ohtani of baseball, but I'm the guy that does it from a football perspective. And then I can be, and here's where Shohei's experience, 10 years now into his major league career, an all-star caliber pitcher, a most valuable player caliber designated hitter. For the negative guys out there that are going, wait a second, he's gone a little bit too far there. I understand that. Just be patient with the, what comes out of a 21-year-old kid's mouth sometimes.
Exactly.
But I think the comparison in terms of what I can do, but here's the reason I bring this up to you. What will they let him do? Because at 185 pounds, he's a smaller frame guy that may not have the same type of durability. We won't know yet until he gets through training camp and starts playing in a couple of games. But I see a dual threat guy that's out there that might be able to do things. And why wouldn't you want someone like that on your roster?
Exactly. I totally agree. The focus is going to be how they will utilize his skill set. I can see them, like you said, he's a smaller frame guy. And I can see when he gets to this level, being focused on defense. Because he's obviously proven he can play that cornerback. As far as the offensive side, yes, he was able to create plays as a receiver, but I wouldn't put him in that scenario unless like we did with Deion. You saw an opportunity. You say, hey, okay, we're at a point in the game. Let's try him out there and see. The game is won, and the coach is coming up with plays in the back of the playbook. They're saying, let's see what he can do. Let's stick him out there for a couple plays and see if he can get that separation. And as of late, they're talking about him as a punt returner. So, you put him in as a punt returner. Let's see what he can do. So you want to feed it to him, spoon feed it to him a little bit at a time. Don't overwhelm him with so much responsibility coming in. Because like you said, he is a rookie coming in. You have to take it slow with him.
Well, I agree with you wholeheartedly, especially with the Deion thing. I played with Deion, and it wasn't that he couldn't. And I still don't have any Florida State film where he was lined up as a wide receiver. But why wouldn't Bobby Bowden have thought of doing something like that?
Right.
We had Wade Wilson, we had Billy Joe Tolliver, we had Chris Miller. That one year we had a guy named Brett Favre, and Dion wanted to take some reps in practice. And this is, by the way, while he's still going south to Fulton County at the end of practice and going to play for the Braves.
Right.
He had the speed and the athleticism to do both. I think the speed was the most important factor, because if no one can get open against him,
Right.
and nobody can cover him, why wouldn't you? But
Yeah.
Jerry Glanville, took a little while for him to do that, because he was a kick returner, kickoff.
Okay.
He was a punt returner.
Yeah.
That was his offensive strategy, scoring
Exactly.
touchdowns all the time. Vincent, I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but Travis Hunter, eventually you're saving a roster spot by getting a guy that can do multiple things and be more than one. Boy, you don't want him to get hurt, because you're going to need four guys. To replace him.
Exactly. You're basically placing your future in his hands. Now, one thing about Travis Hunter, and when you compare him to Deion Sanders, both of them are, you look at them as the same thing. They both have that skill set that you can't teach. You can't coach that. You already have to have that type of athletic ability. I mean, you can test different players at different positions, but even from Little League, you can see players having that skill set of growing with that all the way up to the NFL level or the NBA level, where they have that skill set you just can't coach. And Travis and Dion both have that.
Emmanuel, we've had some fun during the draft prospect shows that we've done when we consider some of the comments that are made. This guy has tight hips. He has, his legs appear to be stiff stop it. That's the part that you can't coach. Is if I turn my hips and I run full speed and I'm Travis Hunter, you can talk about different things, but he's the one out there running. The criticism that goes into this is basically, I can stop on a dime.
Right.
I do a great job of turning and changing direction, following where a guy is, and putting my body in position to where I can prevent that pass from being completed with the wide receiver that I'm covering right now. I completely understand what you're saying, but in the nitpickiness of what people have to say, those are some of the criticisms of he's tight hip stuff. There are times where I just say, guys, you got to stop.
Right.
You got to stop. Three things. Can you play? If you can answer that question, that's all you really need to know. Talk a little bit about that, Emmanuel.
Yeah. He's a pure athlete. There's no doubt about that. You remember when Dion came in as a corner, they were talking about his ability to tackle. One thing Dion could do was cover, and the closing speed that Dion had, you couldn't test Dion, and I see that in Travis. And like you said, the tightness in his hips. Now that's something you can work out with Travis. It's going to take a while, and he's a rookie, so he's one of these players that can adjust. So if he's one of these players that you can see going to play wide receiver or even running the ball, I can see a coach working with him on opening up his hips more, or being that recover type guy. If he gets beat on the play, being able to recover and actually still make a play on the ball. I can see that in Travis Hunter. And I can see them actually getting weight put on him as well and not keeping him at that 185 pounds. So with that being said, his ability to play against bigger receivers and being able to jam them up at the line, being strong enough to do that, he probably will need to put on a few pounds to be able to do that. But like I said, with the coaching things, he's that coachable player. I mean, if he's playing for Dion, you have to be coachable. Dion don't deal with players that you can't coach. So he's that perfect. I'm not gonna say perfect. He's that type of specimen where you can pull him to the side and say, "Hey, this is what I need you to work on. This is what I need you to do." And I can see him taking on that responsibility and actually changing what he needs to change to be better at being able to cover and recover.
Vincent, let me ask you, and Emmanuel, I'm going to go with you right after I ask Vincent this. The biggest programs in the country, obviously, you've got Alabama, Texas, LSU, Michigan, and Ohio State in the past couple of years. Is there any portion of Colorado which we wouldn't have been talking about if Dion had not gone there 3 years ago? He wouldn't have gone there. He was going to go to Florida State. Is there any aspect of the Colorado game that you're worried about in terms of him being able to play at the top level?
Of course not. I think, first of all, playing under Deion Sanders speaks for itself. I think he played against quality competition. I think we don't have to worry about that. I think he's one of these rare special players that come into the league. But the only question that I have and worries I have about Mr. Hunter is he going to get bigger. We could talk about his skill set. He's there. He won one of the highest. We could talk about him being an excellent corner. It's no question about it. He might be the best cover corner in the game. Mm-hmm. Receiving, his hands are just like the best of what I've read from a lot of scouting reports. But my concern is, can he play both positions playing it at 175, 180? And we all know the answer to that. There's no way that can happen. So if he has to get up to 200 pounds, will that take away from his speed? Because the NFL game now goes up to another notch. And most of his speed, when you play in those type of positions, you playing corner in the NFL and you playing wide receiver. Back to you, Harper.
Yeah. Emmanuel, same question to you. Does going to Colorado inhibit anybody from saying, you know what, he maybe just doesn't have that same type of experience that Alabama has going against LSU and Auburn and Arkansas and Georgia and Texas every other week?
Yes, sir. That's a great question. But when you look for an answer to that question, you have to go back to the one of the press conference that Deion had, and Deion made us comment. He knows his limitations. He knows his lane. When they asked him about playing against teams like Alabama or Michigan, he said, "No, I'm not ready." He said, "I'm about 3 or 4 years away from being that," because Deion had the skilled players. That was no doubt. But to be able to play against a team like Alabama in the trenches, Deion already knew he was not ready. He had to go find. He still has to go find guys that can play against teams like Alabama or in any SEC team. And it's not easy to build a team that only wins one game, the previous season, and go to a school where nobody really wants to go play. So if it wasn't for Deion, I don't think a lot of players would have went to Colorado unless some special provision like an NIL deal was made. Yeah. But because it's Deion and because of the work he did over at Jackson, his reputation followed him, and he was able to bring people from the NFL. Actually had head coaches from the NFL that were willing to come in and help coach with Deion. So that actually was an attractive package for players that wouldn't normally come to a Colorado, make a decision to come to Colorado. So Deion knew what he was up against taking that job, and it was a lot. They literally had to give the key to the city to Deion for him to take that job. But when he did take it, he did know too, hey, I got a lot of work here to do, and I'm about 4 or 5 years. I think that's the number he used, 4 or 5 years out for being able to play against the bigger teams, the bigger team like an Alabama, or a team like a Georgia, or a team like a Florida. He knew where he was and knew where he stood. So he's not going to go out there and be boisterous about, okay, it's time to go play Alabama until it's time that he's ready.
Well, a lot of different changes there at Colorado, but let's get back to specifically with Travis Hunter. Mm-hmm. He's listed as the number one guy, but he'll probably go second. If Cam Ward is going to go to Tennessee, then Cleveland would be making a huge error by surpassing. Now, they have 100 needs that they have as well, and quarterback would be one of them. But it appears that he won't get to Cleveland. I'm sorry, get past Cleveland if they pick him. Do you think, you mentioned this a little bit ago, what do you think the odds are of somebody wanting to trade up just to get him? Would they want to do it? Is he that special, or does Will Johnson or Jahi Brown, do one of these other guys close enough to where I don't have to move and reduce my draft pick total by trading up?
Well, just because of the needs that Cleveland has, they would be, for lack of a better word, they would be crazy not to pick him. You already have a Myles Jarrett there that's playing at a high caliber. So you would need somebody that's going to be behind him that can make plays and be a playmaker. And I see Travis Hunter being able to do that. In order for a team to move up into second place, they will actually have to leverage their draft to get to that second spot. To move up and get into fifth and sixth place, that's another story. But to get into that second spot, teams will have to leverage something to get into that spot, because there's a lot at stake at the first 3 picks, and what it would take for a team to move up, it will be astronomical. It'll be something that probably nothing has done, or anybody has done, probably in the NFL in history. But to grab a player like Travis Hunter, a player that you can use just about anywhere on the field, probably except quarterback. I mean, you have to wonder what it would take to move up, and it would take a lot.
Well, Emmanuel, we don't have to go any further than Atlanta itself. In about 15 years ago, we moved up, the Falcons did, from a playoff position, in the mid-20s to number, what was it, 7 or 8 to go get Julio. We gave this, that, the left foot, the right kneecap. We gave more than just an arm and a leg. We threw finger and toenails. We threw jaws and ears and everything to get Julio here.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a very wise move for us, a very wise move. But the thing that hurt us during that time, we didn't address the trenches, and we need to have addressed the trenches. Matt Ryan he was phenomenal at the quarterback position, barring the mistakes that were made, but we didn't address the trenches, and that in the end came up and hurt us. And Julio did a phenomenal job for us. It was worth the pick. And if we had to do it all over again, I would do it all over again. Julio gave us so much, to look forward to. And it was, like I mentioned earlier, the hype, the noise, the buzz that was brought to Atlanta when we went to draft Steve Bartkowski, or when we went to draft William Andrews. It was that same type of buzz, and we got the same type of results. The wins didn't accolade to it, but at the same time, we didn't get to the Super Bowl. But we did bring wins to the city, hope to the city, and that's all that what the draft is all about: bringing in players that could actually contribute to winning and with the hopes of contending in the playoffs.
Yeah, Vincent, before I go to you real quick, you just reminded me of something, Emmanuel, when you mentioned, bringing in Julio. We had Roddy White, you had Tony Gonzalez, you had Michael Turner. It was almost a situation where the quarterback would say, I need 4 footballs because I can get the ball to any one of these guys. I just need time. There was one specific play that I remember where Matt Ryan takes a snap from under center. He turns to hand it off to Michael Turner, and he is tackled before he was able to make the handoff. That's how bad the offensive line was. And so, yes, addressing the trenches. And I still to this day say, for me, and I don't, everyone would say you're a knucklehead, but I think that Alex Mack was the single greatest free agent signing that the Falcons have ever had, because the offensive line immediately got better. You have a Pro Bowler who's telling everybody else what to do and getting a better level out of him. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. And you talk about, especially doing the 2016 team where Alex Mack was the center. He created so much chemistry and had those guys playing on such a level that they thought they could play against anybody, and they did. And that was all accredited to Alex Mack. And when you talk about the trenches, even to this day, I just did a video today and uploaded it today. I would not be mad if we, at the 15th pick, if we went with an offensive tackle. At some point, we still will have to address the trenches, and mostly on the offensive side of the ball. When you have a quarterback like a Michael Penix, when you have a quarterback like a quarterback that's somewhat mobile, you have to address the trenches. When you have a running back like a Bijan Robinson, all the great running backs had a line to run behind. They were able to open up holes. Now, outside of Barry Sanders, who were able to create his own holes in itself, but even the great Walter Payton had to have a hole to run through, and we just haven't quite addressed it. We have players now that can do it, but we have a couple of that are a concern. I'm not going to name names, but I'm worried about Caleb McGarry. I really am. He shows flashes that he can be great at that position, but other times, he showed it at the very end of the season that, we still have some issues at that right tackle spot.
Yeah, we've gone a little bit ahead of ourselves, Vincent. I know we were talking about Travis Hunter and possibly going to the Browns, maybe trading up or down. Your final thoughts before we move on with Travis.
You let Travis Hunter sit there at number 2. You only, in my opinion, over my years, and I'm just speaking for myself, you only move up when you want to get a quarterback that early within the first 5 picks. That's a franchise changer. Now with the Julio Jones trade, that was good because Atlanta had other pieces so they could gamble. That's why the offensive line wasn't that better. But Julio Jones is one of those receivers that we can say Hall of Fame. For me personally, I think Travis Hunter is going to go to Cleveland. I think he's going to be a good fit. The Browns signed Joe Flacco, last week? Nick Chubb is coming off injury. Jerry Jeudy put up some decent numbers last year. So if you're going to play Travis on the offensive side of the ball, he's going to be teamed across from Jerry Jeudy. And then defensively, as Mr. Emmanuel said, Myles Garrett. But they'll have another good corner in Denzel Ward. That's a Pro Bowl type player. So I think we're going to see Mr. Travis Hunter end up in Cleveland. Maybe he'll be the Jim Brown that's coming to revive the Cleveland Browns and win the championship as they did in '64. Back to you, Hop.
Well, wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, that's probably they probably need to bring Jim back because they haven't seen an AFC Championship win since then. They've had a couple, the drive, the fumble, a few good years there. If you don't mind, Emmanuel, let's we talked a little bit earlier about the Carolina Panthers and the New Orleans Saints, both at 5-12. Before we move on and talk about Tampa, at least in the NFC South, do you have any projections on who would you be more worried about the franchise catching up and ending up winning the division? Between those two franchises there, are you more worried about Carolina catching up quicker or New Orleans?
I'm worried about Carolina because, like I said earlier, Carolina's problem was not scoring. Carolina was actually close to scoring 30 points a game. Their problem was not scoring. It was the defense. And I think they have 9 picks this year. Is it 9? I think, no, it's 5 picks. They got 9 picks between this year and next year, I believe it is. But
Carolina has 7 this year. They've got 7.
They have 7? Okay. And the thing is, that what makes it different for Carolina is that they've already addressed a lot of issues in the free agency. They got the safety Trayvon Moorick. They got the defensive lineman Bobby Brown. Patrick Jones was brought in. Christian Rosenboom, he was brought in. J.C. Horn and Mike Jackson. So they've already addressed a lot of issues, and that would drastically improve the defense in itself. We're not even talking about the draft picks because we know they're going to go after an edge rusher in the draft. Who that will be, we don't know. I predicted it would be Jalen Walker. But just those players that I just named there will increase their defense dramatically. But they're the team that I'm worried about. I think Bryce Young is going to become that quarterback. I think he's got it together, and I think he's going to actually bring them back into contention for the division. We already heard about Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay has won 3 years straight or 4 years straight. So we got to look behind us and ahead of us if we want to keep contending.
Yeah, and we'll get to Tampa in a second. One thing about Bryce Young, let me, guys, this for both of you. Am I the only one when he throws a pick or something like that? He is as emotionless as anybody. It's almost as if I have to struggle to find out whether or not he cares. You know what I mean? It's just he's bland in terms of that. Now, I certainly hope he's not like that amongst the guys, but I think that's more of a Nick Saban way because I don't see a whole lot of emotion out of Jalen Hurts as well, or any of the other Bama quarterbacks. I think they were really working on stuff like that. But is this third year for him the one where he really has to turn it around in order for the local fans in the organization itself to go, if he doesn't do it now, we may need to look for somebody else.
Yeah. Well, I believe he'll turn it around this year. We got to remember last season he was on the hot seat.
He lost his job.
Yeah, he lost his job, and then next thing you know, somebody was talking trade. So but I think they finally realized, okay, Bryce Young, if we can protect him, keep him upright, he can make plays. As far as emotions, I mean, one of the greats that ever played the game, Tom Brady, didn't show a lot of emotion. Now you saw it on the sideline, but as far as on the field in the huddle, he stayed composed. Because that's the last thing you don't want your quarterback to do is lose his composure on the field. Because you lose your train of thought. You start doing things you're not supposed to do, ill-advised throws, and making bad decisions. So you want your quarterback on the field to stay composed. Now, showing energy is a different story. But when you lose it, perfect example, Jalen
Jalen Hurts.
Not Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields. When he lost his composure on the field, you saw how that ended up in Chicago. He immediately the next game they were talking trade. So you don't want your quarterback to lose his head. If any sense of team togetherness is to be showed, it has to start at that quarterback.
Well, the face of the franchise, Emmanuel, for over the past years, when he was doing well, Cam Newton was taking that shirt and pretending that he was going to pull Superman out. And when he threw off his front foot, and doggone it, if he had a pick or something like that, he's got the Gatorade towel, and you can just barely see his eyes. So that's what I'm saying. There's such a difference between the two of them. They're both playing the same position, but their personalities are about as far apart as you can get. Go ahead, Vincent.
I don't think we have to worry about Bryce Young. I think Bryce Young, as you just mentioned, Harp, he came out of the University of Alabama, got coached real well by Nick Saban. If you look at the Alabama quarterbacks, they make mistakes, they bounce back up. I tell you what I gain respect about Bryce Young. Remember this, he came in the league as a 21-year-old. He only played 3 years of college football. He came to a team that has not won anything. Then last year, his benching, and they decided to go with Andy Dalton. Yeah, I'm going to tell you what stuck out in my mind about this young man from California with very good parents. Before they went back out for the introductions and they came back off the field, there was one guy that stood at the tunnel and shook every player's hand. Yeah. It was Bryce Young. When he was benched, he shook every player's hand. And I said to myself, no matter what he does in Carolina, wherever you go, he's going to be all right. Yeah. And what really impressed me is how he played at the end of the year. And then if you really want to know that Bryce Young is going to be all right, last game of the season, let the Falcons up.
Oh,
back to you, Harp.
You had to go there, didn't you, Vincent?
Back to you, Harp.
Hey, Vincent, real quick, I ask you the same question. Are you more worried or looking in the rearview mirror about Carolina or New Orleans?
I think both teams are probably there, but I would say I would be more worried about New Orleans because they got more experienced players that have been there. I still like Cam Jordan. He's a veteran. He's played a lot of good football. Chase Young played very well for the Saints last year. They brought him in with a trade. Chris Olave, I think, is one of the top 10 receivers in the game. Do not sleep on Alvin Kamara. I think he's still, as I mentioned earlier, he's still got some treads left on them wheels there. The quarterback position, it doesn't matter who they bring in, but I just think the Saints, I worry about them because Kellen Moore, usually when you and me, I never played in the National Football League. That's you, Hop. But usually when you bring in a guy that comes from a situation in Philadelphia with so much talent, so much structure, so many great offensive players, Kellen Moore is going to have a plan, no matter who he has under center. And the Saints, I think, just need a little push from a leadership standpoint because Dennis Allen, let's face reality, it looked like he was over his head a lot. Didn't look like he wanted to be there as the head coach and lost the team. That's why he doesn't have a job. He might end up being a good defensive coordinator, which he landed the job over there with the Chicago Bears. But the Saints will worry me the most. And they got an excellent fan base. You win a couple of games down in the Superdome, Harp, you and play at that place, they get that city going. And it gets that team going. The Saints will be the team I worry about the most.
Man, that is.
I give you that.
I hate that trumpet guy and all the beads that they throw out there. And man, I'm telling you, the Whodats, and they've got the one thing on us, obviously.
It's Super Bowl.
Yeah, Emmanuel, it's just bad. So before we move on, your comment on what Vincent had just said, has he changed your perspective in terms of whether or not New Orleans or Carolina is a worthy opponent for us to be concerned about in our rearview mirror?
I agree with a lot of things that he said about Carolina against for the Saints. And however, the Saints have one huge problem. David Carr's attitude. It has some reason or another. He didn't want to be in New Orleans. He always loved the Raiders. He wanted to be a Raiders. His home is still in Las Vegas, but his attitude has changed now. And the comment he made a couple of days ago solidified to me that he doesn't even want to be in New Orleans at all. Period. He wants to be traded unless something changes in a closed door meeting or something. Unless they change his attitude, David Carr is going to be the Achilles heel for the Saints. I think right now, Tyson Hill is a better quarterback at this point. I mean, when you look at an overall picture, and I'm saying that to be trying to be funny with Tyson Hill as a quarterback, but David Carr, unless he changes his attitude, the Saints are not going to elevate from where they are. They're actually going to probably drop.
And they gave him more money than you could shake a stick at to try to make him happy, and that still hasn't done it. They've renegotiated his contract. They gave a lot of it in a signing bonus, and that freed up a tremendous amount of money for them in terms of their cap space. But I agree with you. You get you get your spokesman, the face of the franchise, and he's not happy to be there. That can really affect your locker room. Let's go back to the division now. Before we get to Atlanta, let's look at the guys that are in our front view mirror, so to speak. They're the ones right in front of us, and we've been chasing them now for almost half a decade. Emmanuel, first give us your perspective here on Tampa. Playoffs. They've been able to do it last year. I don't think they surprised anybody. They went into Detroit, who that's not an easy place to play right now. They had some struggles there. Let me give you a real quick. They were 10-7. They picked 19th in the first round. They picked 22nd in the second. They've only got 6 picks total. Their needs are quarterback, edge, linebacker, wide receiver, tight end. So defense are the top 3. They've re-signed a quarterback, a couple of wide receivers. They've got 2 offensive linemen that they've signed, 2 edge rushers, a defensive line, a couple linebackers. So they've made some addresses here in the offseason, and they've got $32 million in cap space. Where do you think Tampa goes?
I think they're going to go. First of all, they have a lot to look forward to this coming season. You're talking about winning the division for 3 to 4 years straight, and coming off and they made a world of a showing last year. I mean, even though we swept them, playing against the tougher teams, they were able to beat those teams and still elevate and look like a playoff contending team. But Todd Bowles said it best, and his words, I can quote him. He said he's looking for ball hawks defensive players with an ability to create takeaways. So with that being said, I think they're either going to go corner or linebacker. In the past, Tampa Bay loved drafting linebackers. They love it. They always build on that linebacker squad. And I think I forgot who they lost, but they only had 7 interceptions last year, which is why I'm saying they go cornerback. But also when their linebacker core was kind of on a suspect. They were very vulnerable in the pass defense. So I'm thinking if at their pick, maybe they go two players on the defensive side of the ball with 2 picks, and then they'll probably address offense on the as far as a running back on the offensive side. But they have to address that defense because they're very vulnerable at linebacker. They're prone to leaving open that space where linebackers, especially in the zone where they like to cover, they are very prone to leaving that open. And I don't know if that's a defensive call, but when they played against us, we were able to exploit them to no ends. Down there, Mooney had a field day against them. Drake London had a field day against them. And it all came within the middle of the part of that field where the linebacker core is supposed to be. For some reason, that was left over. I don't know if that was by script, by player error, or what. But they have to address that. And I'm thinking they're going to go linebacker or corner to address those issues.
Don't think Jalen Walker will be there at 19, but is there a chance that Jaheed Campbell from the University of Alabama might be available? And would that be a guy, if he is on the board, would you take him in the New York Minute?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And you're talking about a guy that can play on the edge as well. So, I mean, for the Buccaneers who like to and they like to draft that right side of that line for some reason. I don't know why, but even when they drafted I'm losing my thought here with this guy, with this linebacker. Devin, when they drafted Devin, traded for Devin, they put him on the right side. But even when they brought in his successor, they put him on the right side. So they love, for some reason or another, drafting and addressing that right side of the line. I don't know if that's supposed to be like the tough man spot to be, because Lawrence Taylor played on that side as well. Carl Lawson played on that side as well. So I don't know if that's supposed to be like the draft, the tough man spot, but yeah, they're going to have to address that side at the linebacker core.
Well, a lot there. Vincent, your thoughts first and foremost on Tampa. I mentioned a few things just about where they are. They're a division winner right now, but I think they still have, they're reaching for Philadelphia. They're reaching for Detroit. They've got a different progression that they have. They don't have nearly as many holes to fix as the three other teams in the NFC South. So what's your first perspective about Tampa?
In total agreement. Tampa Bay is trying to get to that NFC championship game. I'm going to say this. Todd Bowles 2 years ago, we were saying to ourselves, including myself, he's not going to be long in Tampa, especially after Tom Brady left. But today, I got to give respect to the gentleman out of Austin, Texas, Boomer, Sooner. Baker Mayfield, in the last couple of years in Tampa, has probably been one of the top three quarterbacks in the game.
Yeah.
Offensively, Tampa's went up to another level. And him playing well, playing with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, the rookie they got last year, Jalen McMillan out of Washington, Tampa's just took it to another level offensively. Bucky Irvin played real well for him last year, the running back position, rookie out of Oregon, Sean Tucker out of Syracuse, Rashid White out of Arizona State.
Yes.
That offense just went to another level under Mr. Baker Mayfield. So today, here on 100 Yards of Football, Boomer Sooner, you get a lot of respect here, because right now Baker Mayfield is playing at a Pro Bowl level, and Todd Bowles would not have had a job if it wouldn't been for Baker Mayfield defensively.
Yeah. You just changed my whole perspective now with all those names that you mentioned and all the great things that they've been able to do since Baker has found his niche there. He's taken ownership, if you don't mind me saying so. Now I'm going for Kelvin Banks or Armand Membo. I'm getting a tackle that's going to protect him for the next 10 years if I can do that. I know you just mentioned all the defense, Emmanuel, but goodness gracious, man, protect that man. Give him, and I would not take at 19, I wouldn't take a guard or a center yet. That'd be a second or third round. But last year they went with a guard. Their number one pick was the kid from North Dakota State.
With no teeth.
Cody, what's his face?
Yeah.
And Cody struggled at the beginning of the year, but at the end of the year, he's the guy that doesn't have any teeth. He looks like Jack Lambert, but he's going to spit on you. He's going to kick you in the shins, and he's going to fight with you because he believes in what they're doing there. Mean, nasty guys that are protecting my quarterback. Man, you never have enough of those, do you?
Yeah, true indeed.
But if I'm going to stay strong, remember Tampa Bay has one of the best left tackles in the game in Tristan Wirfs out of Iowa, who just signed for a new deal. I'm going defense because I think the Buccaneers, we're looking at their new talent. They signed Hassan Reddick in the offseason.
Yeah.
They still got the best, I want to say, power guy in the middle, Vita Vea. I love that name.
Yeah.
Jamal Dean is a very excellent player at the corner, and they got one of the best strong safeties in the game, Antonio Winfield Jr., and then Levante David is still playing at a high level. My take, I got to go roll tide, as you mentioned earlier, Hop, Jaheed Campbell.
Yeah.
Put on the LSU game film from this past season. 3 sacks in that game, interception, forced fumble, 6 tackles. And he worked, arguably, a lot of people saying the best tackle in the game, Will Campbell. He put some work in on Will Campbell, and I think Will Campbell, last time I checked, if you go on to all the mock boards, he's going to New England over there to protect Drake May. Back to you, Hawk.
All right, real quick, Vincent, let me stick with you, and Emmanuel, I'll come right to you. If he's available, do you go with Mike Green, the edge rusher from Marshall? With that speed in Tampa, he's a lighter guy. I think he would excel like crazy in that environment. If he's available, would you pick him?
See, that's why I love 100 Yards of Football and being with this gentleman. Now he done something that's very enticing. Of course, I'm going with Mike Green. because then you got speed, you got Vita Vea in the middle, and you know Todd Bowles like players to get after the quarterback. Matter of fact, that would be probably a more, I would say, perfect fit, because that's what Mike Green does. Led the FBS in 17 sacks last year at Marshall. And one thing I keep hearing is about character concerns and the talent he played at. Well, Harper, you saw him up close and personal. But another thing, Mike Green started at Virginia Tech. So I don't know where all that's coming from. As Coach Jackie Sherrill said earlier on his show, Behind the Bench.
Yeah.
Watch out for people putting certain things out in the next 48 hours before the draft. But Harper, you said the comment of the day, and I got a smile. If Mike Green is sitting there, he's a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. Back to you, Harper.
I don't see how you go around it, you know. Vince Lombardi was the first to say it, and I heard Jimmy Johnson, and there's been 2,000 other. You cannot coach speed, and when you got a guy as fast as Mike Green to get around the edge and turn the corner and be able to put his big old grips on the back leg of your quarterback and bring him down, that's a job well done. Emmanuel, your thoughts?
I totally agree. I can see Green actually playing on the edge. I can see him playing at dropping back in cover because he does have that speed. My only concern is his weight. And that's just my personal opinion.
Right.
I just like my edge guys to be 250 plus and fast. But and you brought something to my attention when you said that you would probably opt to go to an offensive lineman. How much better can the Bucks get? You talk about they were fourth in the league with the run
rushing.
Rushing stuff. So you talking about holding team for an average of 97 yards a game. That's phenomenal. So I mean, so you make that question. Maybe he might go offense and address that side of the ball, but to pass on a player like Mike Green when you're looking for more speed on that defense, and like I was saying earlier, addressing that linebacker core at the same time with that area where they were exposed. Yeah, I can see them going with Mike Green. I totally agree.
And here's why I have a problem with Mike Green coming to Atlanta. There's only two specific words of a name, and it's Vic Beasley. Vic was fast like crazy, but he was 245 pounds, and he didn't have a second move, and I think it cost the Falcons in the end. You get Tack McKinley and Vic Beasley, who are the two smallest bookends that you're ever going to put on the field at the same time. I know they were fast, and they're playing indoors, but it didn't work in Atlanta. Do you think it might not work in Tampa if they end up going that way? Emmanuel, I go to you first.
Well, I think if with the kind of a defensive-minded coach that Todd Bowles is, I think he'll find a way around that. With Vic Beasley, what happened with us is we got exposed when we found out how fast he was. And like you said, he was only limited with his moves. So when the offensive tackles like, hey, this guy is really fast. So they used his speed against him. So all they had to do is really take a step back instead of engaging him, take a step back and just keep their arm out and let his speed work against him and let him take himself out of the play.
Emmanuel, real quick. I'm going to interrupt you real quick here just to say, Andres Pete, the right tackle for the doggone New Orleans Saints, stepped back where his helmet was behind the quarterback's butt. He was so far off the line of scrimmage that you could throw a flag on every play. But you know what? That's all he needed to do in order to be able to stop Vic because he didn't have a bull rush. Exactly. Did you see that ever? I mean, when you're watching the Falcons play, I go,
most certainly.
Everyone was setting up all the tackles. Whenever Beasley would line up on the outside, they would the tackles on the other team would just drop back another 2-3 inches and establish I'm not going to let you beat me with your speed move. And you can't beat me with your bull rush.
Exactly, and that's the problem with that was the problem with Vic Beasley, and that's why I like my guys to be 250 plus, and they have to have some violent hands. They have to have that to back it up. Because I like for my speed guys on the edge to be able to engage at some point. You can't always outrun some of these offensive tackles, because if you saw during the combine, some of these offensive tackles are running 5 speed, so in 4 or 5 speed. So I mean, these guys are getting faster. They're big, and but they're also getting faster. So I want my guy to be 250 plus with a little heavy on. Now, granted, Lawrence Taylor was able to play it that way, but he had some very violent hands, and he also had the moves. He had some counter moves too. He just didn't do the bull rush. He just didn't swim around the edge. He was able to beat you. He can beat you inside, outside. He had those moves along with the hands. So Lawrence Taylor was able to play it that way. But the players that's coming along today, they're almost becoming one-dimensional almost, and they're getting fast, yes, but they're losing the hands. You know, and I know when I was playing, I mean, Coach Rice used to, I mean, that's all he used to, get your hands up, get your hands up. That's all you heard. He had the little cigar popping out of his mouth. Get your hands up, McFarland, get your hands up. I heard that so much, and I'm like, I'm started yelling at myself sometimes. Get my hands up, you know. But an edge rusher has to have some violent hands, and that's one of the reasons why I considered Mason Graham also at that number 15th pick from out of Michigan. His hands are so violent. I mean, whether he got him in the dirt or whether he standing up, his hands. I mean, when his hands meet that chest or gets anywhere near that offensive tackle does this. No, he falls back, he leans back, and that's what you want out of your edge rusher. And you know, Mike Green does not do that. He's that speed guy, and he has recovery speed when where he plants his foot one way, he can go another way. But I really don't like that in my edge guy. I want my edge guy to be violent. And Mike Green is not violent, but he is speedy, and he'll be an asset for Tom Bowles and Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense.
Yeah, Vita Vea with 340 pounds has enough to give and take there to offset that balance of the line.
Exactly.
To where you can go with the big guy. You're not going to run in between the tackles very well against Tampa, but speed on the outside. Vincent, your thoughts?
Mike Green, you saw him play up and close and personal, Hop. You can give us a better account. From what I see on film, he's got the quickest first step. He's in the same class as Dula Carter, the young man out of Penn State. First step is quick when you're playing DN, and I always say this. Who are you playing with makes a difference. You just mentioned Hop, 340 pounds via Vea, who's going to take up some garbage within the offensive line.
Yeah.
Then you got Levante David, who's still playing at a high level at 35 years old. And then they picked up Hassan Reddick.
Yeah.
And you know Hassan Reddick has been upset because of the situation he went through with the Jets.
Yeah.
So you know he's going to be eating at the chops to get another contract. And I think when you look overall at where you're going with the Tampa Bay defense, if they take him there, he's going to come in and produce. And think about this. This is a young man that lay at the FBS with 17.5 sacks last year.
Yeah.
Even though he played at Marshall, you got to give credit. He had a pretty good coach, Charles Huff, who's now at Southern Mississippi, who came out of Nick Saban tree at Alabama. So this is a gentleman that's been well coached in Mike Green. And I don't think we're going to see another Vic Beasley coming down the ladders because I think Mike Green loves football. That's just my opinion. But before I give it back to the front man, he could tell us he's seen him play up close and personal. Yeah. So final words on Mike Green, Hop. Is he a player?
Yeah, he's definitely a player. And there's a couple of 2-sack, 3-sack games that he had in the film that I got to watch before they played Georgia State in a home game there. Mm-hmm. One of the great advantages, I would think, that any of these players have, even and we've mentioned this just a few moments ago with Jackie Sherrill when we were talking to him, and for this show, it's just there can be a great. You may not get as much money right away, but if you fall to the mid or latter portion of the first round, and can you imagine Mike Green going to Buffalo because they didn't re-sign Von Miller, or going to Kansas City or Philadelphia? God forbid for the rest of the league to go a guy that good to join a team that's already deep in the playoff caliber. Man, what a blessing that would be for that young man. Yeah, he would make a couple $100,000 less in the first few years of his contract, but he'd make it all up in terms of endorsement and all the other stuff. Oh my gosh, I hope he doesn't fall that far for his sake. But I'm just telling you, if he went to the Chargers, Goodness gracious. Tell me where I'm wrong, Emmanuel.
Oh, you're not wrong at all. You're not wrong at all. And you brought up the Chargers. I can see the Chargers right now, man. I tell you, just overnight, it seems like they're going to be in contention to go deep into the playoffs. I mean, the way that they're actually going with young guys too. I mean, they got a couple of veterans on there too, but just with the young guys, and you talking about the future for the Chargers. I mean, my goodness. I mean, and they're about to be loaded with Georgia players as well. So, I mean, is Georgia player the answer for a team that's building a young team to contend in the NFL now? I mean, how many Georgia players do we have now that are on playoff teams now? I haven't counted. And I think I will do the research on that to see how many Georgia players are on playoff teams. It seems like all of them are.
Well, the Philadelphia Bulldogs are officially going to change their name after our show because they've got 6 or 7 guys that are on the roster. They're going to, instead of throwing empty hot dog wrappers at their opponent, they're going to go dog sick them. They're going to say that at every kickoff.
I tell you that when we played Philadelphia, I actually thought we were going to go in there and get blew out.
Yes.
But we ended up playing them pretty good. And it's a good thing we played them early in the season where they were still filling things out. But I think if we had waited till later in the season, I'm not going to say it wouldn't have been close, but the way we ended the season and the way they were playing at the end of the season, we would have gotten blown out. It wouldn't have been close. And it would have been all attributed to that front seven of the Philadelphia Eagles, or should I say the Philadelphia Bulldogs.
Yeah. Well, Denver, for example, couldn't do a whole lot offensively, but man, they were giving up. What were they, second or third in the league for most of the season in terms of giving up points? If you go to Pittsburgh, if you went to Minnesota, because I know that their linebackers especially, they made a fortune for themselves by being fast and aggressive and getting to the quarterback. The Rams need one. So Baltimore would love to have a guy like that. And if Mike Green ends up going there, goodness gracious, lights out, man. They've already got so many good, solid foundational players and positioned equivalencies across the board. That would be, he comes to Atlanta. And Atlanta's looking at him, and let's go with the Falcons. Let's take a minute, Emmanuel. If he comes to the Falcons, I'm thinking, well, we just lost Grady, so we need a defensive tackle. Right. We need interior and exterior linebackers. We're not sure. We only got one safety and a cornerback. He's going to come in and be asked to do too much, in my opinion, to plug all the holes that the Falcons have on defense.
Right, exactly. I agree. And I know it's a stretch, and I'm dreaming. And the only way I would go different from that is we're able to somehow land Trey Hendrickson. Oh my goodness, I would go crazy. And then we draft a Malachi Starks and put behind him. And I tell you, the thing about Mike Green is I don't see him coming here because Raheem Morris likes those big edge guys. He likes them fast too, and he's not big on. You saw it in when he was with the Rams. They big edge rusher. They were big. They had nice size on them. They weren't
heavier guys, right?
Yeah, they were heavier guys,
bigger bodies.
And even when he was here in Atlanta before he left, we had Coleman out there, I was gonna say Big Beasley, but I don't want to go that route. He was just a speed guy, but he loved Coleman. I mean, and Raheem Morris was that guy. He was that guy where players bought into his system. So you bring these big guys in, big edge rushers in. Raheem Morris is going to go crazy because I think he's going to probably want to take over the defense again and probably not even be the head coach anymore. But he likes big guys, and I share the same sentiment. Big guys on the edge, somebody who can seal that edge and make a play on that quarterback.
Pause real quick with me right there, if you don't mind. Mm-hmm. Shamar Stewart out of A&M. He's 6'6", 290 is what I have listed. Michael Williams out of Georgia, 6'5", 265.
Yeah.
James Pierce out of Tennessee, 6'5", 243. He's skinny. Someone needs to feed that young man. But your bigger body guys is what you're looking at, right?
Yeah.
But here's my problem.
Mm-hmm.
Shamar and Michael, their sack totals aren't anywhere close. You combine the two of them together, they don't have what Mike Green has. So there's a give and take that you got to have as a fan watching this. Go, man, I want Mike Green, but he's too small. But Shamar Stewart, he didn't have any sacks. There's no perfect answer for this, is there?
Yeah. I out of those three that you named, Michael Williams is my choice. Basically because he can play on the edge and he can also play with his hand in the dirt at defensive tackle. And I actually saw, and I'm a Miami Hurricane fan, but I did watch a lot of Georgia football. But I saw a couple of times where Michael actually dropped back in coverage. Who made that call? I don't know. And he actually made a couple of plays on the ball. So his versatility and his ability to still play with his hands in the dirt, he was hard to block. I mean, even in a double team, he was hard to block. You had to put some type of hold on him in order to keep him from getting into making a play making a play on the ball or getting a sack. He didn't get a lot of sacks. Matter of fact, I think he only had one. But the way he played when he came back from injury, and a lot of people thought this was going to count against him in the draft. When he came back from that injury, they played Texas. What a field day he had. Had a field day against Texas. I think Georgia just like playing Texas because they Jalen, Malachi, and Michael, all three of them had field day against Texas. Yeah, and they did it twice last year. In the first meeting as well as into the championship. And Michael showed, I mean, he showed every reason why I wanted him here in Atlanta. I actually want him over Jalen Walker. And the consensus has shown that Falcon fans want Jalen Walker. Jalen Walker is good, yes. He's a little undersized for me. But Michael Williams, if I had to choose between those three that you named, Michael is my guy.
Michael, one of the many different scouting reports I read, he shows flashes of dominance that is very rare to see at this level. That's the thing that, man, if you are able to get the dominant, just that one word. Yeah. Because when we broke huddle, every time I was in Philadelphia, 1, 2, 3, we break. And when Reggie White did it, 1, 2, 3, dominate. Yeah, that's what Reggie brought to it. Dominate.
Now I was when I had did my report, if I had to compare him to a player from the past, I think of Richard Dent. And he shows the exact same characteristics as Richard Dent. And if he could bring that to this level, he's going to go a long way. And if he comes here and bring it here, he'll definitely be that Richard Dent for us.
Yeah. Richard Dent was a small, wasted guy that, you know what, along with others, he didn't make every play, but he sure played. He made enough to where you knew that you had to know where he was. He was the Bears' answer to the Lawrence Taylor type guy that you better know where Richard Dent is. Yeah. But you better block everybody, and the Falcons don't have everybody. Vincent, we've gone a long way without getting a comment from you. Please forgive us.
Like, I'm not going to get away from what I always believe in. And like I say, Harper's getting ready to laugh. But Michael Williams, I'm going to say this at Georgia, too inconsistent for me. Stayed hurt too much. Got the size, no question about it. Shamar Stewart, with all that athletic ability, with all the looks you got. You only had 4.5 sacks your whole career at Texas A&M. Yep. Both of them played in the SEC. Now, Michael, I know why you love him. No question about it, Emmanuel, but he stayed too hurt. Yeah. That's why Jalen Walker ended up being a better player to me. Yeah. I always go on production. Okay. Even our producer, Logan Landers, who I call Babyface, been with me for almost 6 years. No, and this gentleman right here, Mr. Harper LeBel, I look at the player's production. Mm-hmm. It'll be hard. Mike Green, 17.5 sacks in one season. I don't care who you playing against. You come to play every week. Yeah. James Pierce at the University of Tennessee, even though he light, I believe he ended his career with over 20 sacks in his 3 years. So I don't get caught up in all the body of work. I get caught up on the really intriguing things of the game. Did you stay healthy?
Yeah.
How did you respond? I'm not going off one game because you came back and you played well against Texas. No disrespect to you, Emmanuel.
No,
but I'm looking over your production.
Right.
Production.
Right.
And to me, usually, when you bring a player into your squad and you draft him, you're going to get a pretty good football player. And no disrespect, Michael Williams can make me wrong, and I eat my words here on 100 Yards Football. He can end up being a Pro Bowl player.
Right.
No disrespect to Shamar Stewart. Looked the part. One of the best looking prospects at the DN positions came into this draft. But I'm always going to stay with the production. The production. See, it's a true story. The 75 draft, we had all these running backs from all these big schools that had all these great accolades. I can't remember their names. But a lot of people didn't really talk about this young man that went 4th overall out of Columbia, Mississippi, by the name of Sweetness. I don't have to say no more. Walter Payton. And he had production at Jackson State. Close to almost 4,500 yards in 3 years. And then people come back and say competition, like they say in Mike Green and Marshall. But I'm just saying, I always go off your production in your college career. To me, you're able to stay on the field. To me, you're taking care of your business. And I'm not saying that about Michael Williams.
Right.
But he was inconsistent because he stayed hurt a lot. Back to you, Harp.
Well, a lot to go there. In Emmanuel, I mentioned this a little bit earlier. You'd love to have the 17 sacks that Mike Green has, but he's a little small. You'd have all these other guys that are available. They're bigger, but they don't have any numbers to give you. So it'll be tough. What is your anticipation of maybe going not safety, corner or something else defensively? In terms of what the Falcons are going to do with their pick.
You talking to me or?
Yes, sir, Emmanuel. I'm sorry. Please forgive me.
Okay. If the Falcons go, it's only really 2 positions that I'm really concerned about. Because I know we're destined to go edge rusher. However, now that we're without Grady, we have to address that. We open that hole up, so it has to be addressed. But it's only 2 players that I'm looking for, especially in the first round if they're available. Malachi Starks or either Mason Graham. Mason Graham will address the defensive tackle spot that we got open now, and Malachi Starks will bring that bulldog, no pun intended, but that bulldog bully type aggressive that we need in the secondary. So we don't have that now. Jesse Bates is a technical guy, in my opinion. He's a strategist, and he's the type guy that he shows the smarts, smart aspect of it. Now, Malachi Starks, I compared him to Keanu Neal when he was here. He's that guy that can come in and be a force in the secondary. And he plays the ball like nobody's business in the air. And plus he plays corner. So he addresses 2 issues for us if we opted and wanted to use him that way. And he plays the corner just as well as he plays safety. Plus, Malachi plays both free and strong safety. So he's a definite plus. And you talk about a sure tackler. Over 190 tackles this year. 190 tackles last year over his career at Georgia. And he's, not to mention, like I said, he is a sure tackler. He don't miss tackles. I think his whole career, last season, I saw him miss 1 tackle, and it was because one of the own Georgia players came and knocked him off that tackle. But other than that, he didn't miss any tackles last year.
Yeah, he'll get you to the ground.
Yeah, we need guys that can tackle. That's an issue. That was an issue for us the last couple of seasons, rather. But we want to see what we have in Braylon Trice. We still have him here. So to just go edge rusher first, we can get another edge rusher down the way. There are plenty of edge rushers in this draft. Edge rusher, defensive tackle, there's plenty of them. But those 2 players there, I think, can come in and be day 1 starters and be an impact.
There's no wrong answer. I'm just saying some guys prefer to go front back.
Yeah.
defensive line, linebackers, safeties, and corners.
Mhm.
There's some that say, nope, if you go back front, if you go safeties, corners, then linebackers in terms of your priority, it
Right.
just depends on what you've already got. You mentioned defensive tackle. I'm assuming that Mason Graham will be gone by the
Yeah.
time that the Falcons pick. However, there is a possibility that either Walter Nolan, this is the 6'3" 305, 4'9", 40 guy from Mississippi,
Right.
or Kenneth Grant, the other enormous, 330 plus
Exactly.
pounder out of Michigan. If either one of those is available, do you have a preference?
Almost certainly, I'll take Kenneth Grant hands down. I was listening to Terry Fontenot's press conference today, and he kept hinting at the fact that the Falcons will be willing to move up. So if Mason Graham is available, yes, by all means. Chris Grant, if he lands in our lap, by all means. Walter Nolan, by all means. So,
Okay.
but my thing is, I want that big guy that we lost, and when I say big, because Grady Jarrett was not a big guy, he was just strong. He was an ox, almost immovable. He was. I think I'm taller than Grady. They had him listed at 6'1". I'm 5'11". So. And I was looking eyeball to eyeball with Grady. So, I mean, but he's an ox. So we lost a lot in Grady Jarrett. If production, leadership on the field, and to have a guy to come in and fill in behind him, I take any of those three guys that you just mentioned.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
The Falcons, remember, for Dan Quinn's era, what would they have to be? Fast and physical, which was a polite way. And I used to say this on the air at 92.9. That means we're going to be small.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
We're gonna be fast and physical. Okay, we're everyone's gonna be bigger than us. And when I was playing with the team in the early '90s, you had Mike Gann, who's about 6'5". Ricky Bryan was 6'3" or 4". You had Tim Green, who was barely 6 feet, and anyone else that you had out there that we were smaller. We were fast, but we were small. You go against the Washington Redskins and those big hogs, and they mowed us down.
Yeah,
they wore you out with the 3rd and 2. They'd get 4. The first down runs, second down runs. So I don't mind getting bigger. And if any of those guys, especially the ones at the tackle position that you mentioned, even Shamar Stewart as a 6'6", 290-pound guy, maybe you're bigger. And you can play with anyone when you're big. Okay, that's the way I look at it. But no wrong answers there. Anyways, Vincent, come back to you. Falcons pick. A lot of guys could be on the board. There are only going to be 15 that are gone right there. What is your first a position that you need to address? Is it defense, offense? Is there a specific person you have in mind?
If the Falcons, if Mason Graham is going to be gone, he's only D tackle that to me would be worth really taking high in this draft. All the other D tackles, I call them tired too. So if I'm the Falcons, I'm taking the safety, as Mr. Emmanuel said, Malachi Starks. I think when you're talking about a Pro Bowl safety, you're talking about skills, you're talking about Kenny Easley running light type skills, I think you're bringing them in. And I'm going to say this. When you come into the University of Georgia as an 18-year-old, Georgia's coming off their first national championship since 1980, and you're able to earn a star position at the safety position. You playing with Kelly Ringo, Jalen Carter, Tyreek Smith, and Kwani Lassiter. All of them eventually that became NFL starters. That's saying something special about you. And then I want to go back his freshman year. All you got to do is put on the game field against Oregon. I think he had 2 picks in that game, and that was his first game as an 18-year-old freshman. But I like everything about him. 6'1", 210, size, Kenny Easley skills, running light, hitting ability. A lot of people saying he regressed a little bit this year, but that's all right. He was a little nicked up. But I think he fit perfectly in with Atlanta because last year, even though Jesse Bates played maybe at times, made Pro Bowl plays, but remember this, a lot of teams went bombs away. The Minnesota Vikings. Do I have to mention anymore? Sam Darnold had over 400-some yards and 5 touchdowns. Back to you, Harper.
All right. Well, I'm gonna throw a wrench in this in just a second, but before I do, Emmanuel, you mentioned that Terry Fontenot had a press conference and he was going to talk about some things. And I was asked a few years ago when I did a Falcon thing on the radio, would you be surprised if the Falcons moved up? And I said, nope. And then it'd be the same without skipping a beat. Would you be surprised if the Falcons moved back? And I said, nope. And he said, would you be surprised if the Falcons stayed right where they were? And I go, nope, I have no idea what they're going to do.
Right.
They could do any of it, and I'd be happy with it. I want them to, do what's best for the organization for obvious reasons. As a fan, anyone would want that. But they've only got 5 picks, and for you to move up, you're going to have to get rid of at least 1 and maybe 2 of those. I don't see how they can afford to do that unless they've got a first and a second. Then they don't pick again until what, the 5th?
5th, yep.
So how do you trade assets in terms of that and move up 2 slots? Maybe trade out with the Cowboys. Is that what he was mentioning there, or is it just coach speak? And I'm just talking, and of course we'll move up. No, they can't.
Yeah, he was probably trying to appease the reporters. They're asking the questions because a lot of speculation was we were going to try to move up and grab. And be in contention to grab like a Travis Hunter, which we have no chance at getting, but also looking at Abdul Carter. So people like, well, what are you willing to give up, or are you willing to move up?
Yeah.
And he said, of course, he said he's 75% the guy that would say yes, let's move up. But he also said too at the same time that the Falcons will be willing to move back to gain more draft capital. But my thing is, if you see that guy that and you feel in your gut that can make that impact coming in. Like in our case, Ruko Rohoro, we moved up to get him. And of course, it could become twofold. He could move back to move up. So he can move back, gain more capital to move up to get a player that he wants. So it works twofolded too. So, and Terry Fontenot, he's always been that guy that's known to grab the best player available in the draft. Whether that be offense, defense, it doesn't matter. But he's always been known to be the guy to get the best player in the draft. But the consensus now, we need defense. But I said that's fine if he keeps that mentality. But this year, this draft, that best player needs to be a defensive player.
Vincent, go right ahead. You don't need to raise your hand.
Okay. Let's get through all this. Terry Fontenot has got to hit it on this draft right here. A lot of pressure's on. Last year they made a big move in getting Michael Penix. You see how that worked out. Now Michael Penix is the best, but will look like he's going to be their starter for some years.
Yeah.
The Falcons have been lacking a pass rusher for years.
Yeah.
True enough, they might not have some capital, but if I'm the Falcons and Terry Fontenot, I'm getting aggressive with my first and second pick.
Yeah.
I'm trading that to move up, to take the young man third out of Penn State, Abdul Carter. The best quick first step to any guy rushing the passer since the young man out of Miami by way of University of Alabama, Derek Thomas. And Harper, you had played against him and seen him up close and personal. That's how much I love Mr. Carter. That's the move of I'm the Falcons. We can cut through all the philosophies about the draft, all this other stuff. You need a pass rusher because you finished 30th in the league.
Yeah.
Now, let me back up. You only had 31 sacks. You're talking about you want to be a Super Bowl contender. You're talking about you want to win a division. You got to get somebody to get the pressure because your back five didn't really play real well last year because it didn't have no pass rush.
Right.
And you've been lacking this for some seasons. Mm-hmm. If I'm the Falcons and I'm Terry Fontenot, that's what I'll be aggressive for.
Yeah.
Not Travis Hunter, not Cam Ward, nobody else.
Yeah.
Abdul Carter from Penn State University. To me, a much better football player, and I'm gonna say this lightly, but I'm gonna put my name on it. I think he's a better prospect than LeVar Arrington and Michael Parsons. Back to you, Paul.
All right. Well, Vincent, I need to make a correction to what you said because you told me that I got to see Derek Thomas. Nobody saw Derek Thomas. You'd look, and then he was already gone. He was already by you. That dude could get 3 steps and cover more ground and put you in a position as a 6'5", 300-pound offensive tackle to where you were helpless.
He was a blur.
He was so, and he wasn't LT. He was different. He was amazing. All right, Abdul Carter's gone. We don't have him. Mason Graham is gone. He's already been picked.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys have anyone in particular? I'm thinking the Teteroa McMillan, the wide receiver out of Arizona. He's listed number 7 coming out. Here's my suggestion. A couple years ago, about 5 or 6 years ago, Falcons were picking, 19th, whatever, 20th, and they picked this guy named Calvin Ridley out of the University of Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing? We don't need another receiver. Well, as soon as I heard it, I said, you never have enough receivers. And
Right.
Calvin Ridley turned out to be an amazing rookie that helped out Julio, that helped out with our tight end situation. He was just another asset. Could the Falcons end up picking a better value player that's still on the board, even though they're picking 15th, 16th in that area? I'm sorry, where are they exactly? I can't remember where the Falcons are.
15th.
They're 15th, yeah. So getting the 9th best player if he's still on the board, and if it's a wide receiver, it's a Michael Penix move. We've got Drake on one side. Let's get this other kid and have the best receiving core that the young league would admire.
Yeah.
Emmanuel, let's go with you first.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. The thing is, we have more receivers now. I don't know if you remember seeing the list of receivers that we have now.
Well, we just re-signed Kadarius Hodge. I know we just did that.
We re-signed him. We also have Chris Blair, who they have gotten to be very fond of. And I think Penix is going to be very fond of him as well. They found all kind of chemistry during camp, during the OTAs. They found all kind of chemistry. Penix and Blair did. And we also have another young man there, 6'2", 205. I'm sorry, I can't remember his name, and I was pulling for him to actually come in and get some playing time. He's a phenomenal special teams player, and I'm sorry I can't remember his name. But we have a lot of receivers now. If we run out of potential draft prospects to choose from, I think we need to go offensive tackle. And let's just say Mike Green is gone. Let's just say all of the D tackles that were on our radar are gone. We don't have a chance to get Malachi. Let's just say everybody's gone. I say we go offensive tackle, and Jonah Savannah is that guy for me. And that's, like I said, if Terry Fontenot goes with that best player mentality that he's been known to do, but I think he needs to address needs now. I think he needs to change the culture of the Atlanta Falcons drafting now, because going with that best player mentality, we can end up with more skilled players than what we need, and we still don't address the trench. Because at some point, like I said earlier in the podcast, at some point we have to address this trench, and it's got to start with that blind side, Michael Penix, Caleb McGarry. He's shown that he can play that position, but I don't want to see us going in picking best player available and get a wide receiver or a running back. Yeah, I mean it's just unless you plan to have a game plan to trade him or trade him to gain even more draft capital. I just don't see it happening. I don't want to see it happen. I want us to actually address the needs that has hunted us for the last 2 seasons.
Well, my value pick probably for Atlanta, you're right. You got Drake London, Kadarius Hodge, Casey Washington, Jesse Matthews, Dylan Drummond, Chris Blair, Darnell Mooney, Raymond McLeod, James Agnew, Philip Dorsett, and David Sills, the 5th. You got a very full existing wide receiver room right now.
Casey Washington is the guy that I was trying to remember. Appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. But in terms of, tackle, the best guys on the board, if who would be Kelvin Banks, excuse me, from Texas is out there, and he's listed as the 9th best player, and you can pick him up. I'm just throwing that out there because I think we all realize and know that the edge rusher is a need that the Falcons have, but they seem to avoid addressing that for the past 7 or 8 years. So I don't assume that they're going to get it all figured out. There's too many other needs, and they may go with Malachi Starks, so they may pick another guy that will be a great fit for the organization, but it's outside what most of the fans would agree at this point. Before we move on, Vincent, your thought.
The Falcons paid Caleb McGarry, right? He's on a nice deal, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Again, Hop, you bring up some good points. You always make me think on this draft show here. Philadelphia went out and got A.J. Brown when they had Devontae Smith, right?
Mm-hmm.
Serious weapons on the outside. Outside the other receivers that Harper just ran off, all them average. So I love what Harper said as a value pick with the young man out of Arizona, Mr. T. McMillan. They didn't win a lot of games, but I think his production was like, 96 receptions, 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns. He's about 6'4", 208. And then I had to wait back and see what he do at his pro day. And when he broke that 4-4 off, him opposite Drake London, both of them out of the same area, former brothers in the Pac-10.
Mm-hmm.
USC, Arizona, that West Coast flavor. Then Michael Penix playing at Washington.
Yeah.
Then you got B. John Robinson. To me, I got to not really agree with my co-host on my front of 100 yards football, but he on to something.
Yeah.
Because if you don't get the pass rush you need, that means that the Dome is going to be rocking with points.
Yeah.
And I would take a gamble with that.
Yeah.
Because the other group of receivers you have are average.
Yeah.
Average. And if you're going to play championship level football, then you got to step your game up. I'm going to bring one more analogy.
Mm-hmm.
The Eagles had Devontae Smith. They went out and said, we're going to put up the money for A.J. Brown. And what happened this past year and the year before when Mr. Brown got there 2 years ago?
Yeah.
The words of uncontrollable.
Yeah.
Who you going to guard? Both of them 6'4". Both of them former basketball players. Akeem Olajuwon at the NFL level going down into Georgia. No, the Mercedes-Benz Dome.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, I love the move because you're giving Michael Penix another weapon and another value.
Mm-hmm.
Back to you, Harper.
Yeah, I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, a couple years ago, the Falcons were supposed to pick another quarterback, Justin Fields, and they went with the best guy on the board, Kyle Pitts. Last year, would they pick 8th, 9th? They went with the best guy on the board, Bijan Robinson. That's 2 years ago. Are you kidding me? It's a trend. I mentioned the Calvin Ridley pick. So the Falcons have done that in the past. They go for the value. And I don't have a problem with that. But then again, I also want to have Abdul Carter, and but so do a lot of other teams. It looks like he's going to New York. Before we close out, any other interesting scenarios that you see? I mentioned my own particular. Would you be surprised if they pick up or traded up, or if they go back? I tend to think that because we've only got 5, we're going to go back. Emmanuel, give us your thoughts here. I don't want to go back at 15 to 20, 26, somewhere in that realm. But if I get another second or a third rounder, I may be willing to do that, especially if the defensive side of the ball in this year's draft has a lot of talent.
Yeah, I agree with Vincent there. If we are to move up, and if we have a chance to get Abdul, by all means, go do it. Abdul has proven to be that guy. I don't want to move back to try to gain capital. I mean, because let's be honest, draft picks are untested talent. So you can draw back. Trade back, pick up a bunch of nobodies that will ever not produce anything. But I don't think that's going to happen simply because Terry Fontenot has done something that he has not done since he's been here. He's already signed 20 to 22 reserve future contracts to the team already, and he's not done. And we're just not even talking about the free agency moves that he's already made. So there's going to be a lot of competition in camp this year. Unlike the last seasons, whether or not, and I think he's hoping that a couple of these picks, signees actually work out. He even hinted in the press conference of having some undrafted free agents that could actually come in, and do what a Nate Landman did, or and perform for us. So I don't know if you've seen the list of the reserve agents that he's signed, but it's the bulk of those players are defensive tackles and O linemen. So going into the draft, he may get. It wouldn't be surprised me if he addressed that edge rusher with that first pick, and then everything else is best player available. So everything probably won't be defense. I can see him staying put at number 15 and go ahead and drafting that one player that he thinks is going to be that edge rusher.
Yeah, in terms of just let's look at the positions. The Falcons have signed a quarterback, 2 wide receivers, 2 tackles, 2 edge rushers, a defensive lineman, a linebacker, 2 cornerbacks, a safety, and they re-signed their long snapper, Liam McKillum. They've had some movement here in the offseason, and that's why the cap moves around about every other day. They went from
I'm sorry, you said they
have a couple extra. Please go ahead.
Oh, you said they re-signed the long snapper Harper LeBel. That's what you said?
No, I wouldn't be here right now if I'd be up in Flowery Branch lifting weights and running in that green grass up there on that field. But
and I will be up on the hill looking down.
Yeah, that's right.
Harper. That would be.
Yeah. Put your teeth back in and get rid of all that gray hair, you old man. Come on now. Vincent, in terms of just there are a lot of needs. And I said last year, when the Falcons picked Michael Penix, and everyone in national media had the same reaction. It's almost as if there was one script given. What are the Falcons doing? Well, the year before, the Falcons went an entire season without a steady quarterback. And I believe their owner said, we will never, ever, and keep using that word many, many more times, let that happen again. They get the best free agent that they could possibly get, and they drafted for their future. Quarterback is not a problem. I still think that there are many other holes in the dam that have leaks in them, and I don't know if we have enough fingers for that. But if you solve the edge rusher with Abdul Carter, and that's a dream because he'll be gone by New York unless you trade up. And I don't know if New York wants to give him up. That's just one of those things that we'll find out in about 27 hours, whatever it is.
Right.
But get in an edge, whether it be a small guy in Mike Green or a bigger body guy, Stewart. Just give us your impression right now where you think should we stay where we are? Should we draft back? Should we move up?
I think in order to be a franchise that you're talking about, you win the Super Bowl, you got to be aggressive, man.
Yeah.
Jerry Fontenot comes out of the New Orleans Saints tree. They won the Super Bowl, him, Sean Payton, all of the people associated with the organization. New Orleans has always drafted very aggressive. Since Mr. Fontenot here, he did say one thing, that when he took the job, he was always going to draft the best available player. He's followed that truth. 2 years ago, they took B. John Robinson where there was other needs. They took Kyle Pitts where everyone, including myself, said, you need to take Justin Fields. I don't see him changing that going into this draft. And Mr. Fontenot, believe this, I'm pulling for him as a GM in Atlanta. A lot of people are throwing him on the bus. A lot of people have killed some of his decisions.
Yeah.
But he's got 2 of them right so far, Michael Penix and B. John Robinson.
Yeah.
So my thing is,
and Drake,
I don't expect the Falcons to do anything different. I think they're going to be very aggressive.
Yeah.
And I think whether or not they sit at 15 or not, I think if Mike Green is there, that's their man. If Mike Green is not there, they're going to go Malachi Starks. But I wouldn't be surprised they try to move up and get Abdul Carter. That's just me. And Falcon fans, I can hear it now. Get ready because they're going to probably have to give up their first and second. And then what else do they have? I'm not really sure what they got. 2/5. Right quick. I know they got a 1 or 2.
They got 2 7s. There's nothing. That's
nothing then.
That's the biggest thing that no 3rd or 4th, and it's going to be a long day 3 for Falcon fans.
Me personally, looking at their roster, I think they got everything set. I think they need the pass rusher.
Yeah.
31 sacks last season. That's not going to get it if you're talking about advancing in the playoffs and getting to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That's just me personally. And I'm telling you, in my opinion, when you look at Abdul Carter, I'm saying to me, coming out of college, and I know I'm saying something very heavy, him rushing the passer, I think he's a better prospect than Levi Arrington and Michael Parsons. Go back and look at the Notre Dame game in the playoff game and how he was putting pressure on Notre Dame all night. And that was with a separated shoulder.
Yeah.
Let me say that one more time. That was with a separated shoulder. I don't have to say no more. That's where I'm going. If I'm the Atlanta Falcons, you say you've been needing a pass rush in the media for the last, 3 or 4 drafts. I'm making a big splash. And if that can move the needles and New York want to bite on it, that'll be my man. Back to you, Harp.
Well, a lot to go there, Emmanuel. Your thoughts here, final thoughts on Falcons and their possible pick here. And we talked about the NFC South, of course, but let's keep it local here with Atlanta.
Yeah. At that number 15 pick, I think Atlanta, like Mr. Vincent said, needs to make a splash this year. They need to do something that we've never done in the past and be very aggressive at grabbing the player that we so needed for the last, I'm going to say, 8 years. Even with Vic Beasley being here and doing what he did, I didn't see him as an edge rusher. I didn't like the pick when we got him here. I didn't like the pick when we picked up Takk McKinley. But at this point, right now, we need to make that splash, like Mr. Vincent said, whether it be to leverage this draft and do whatever we need to land Trey Hendrickson. I think Trey Hendrickson will be that guy for us. The problem is the secondary is still vulnerable to those like Mr. Vincent said earlier in the podcast. They're still vulnerable to the long ball, you know, and unless we address that issue as well, we're going to still look inconsistent. And that's the only thing that we've been managed to look consistent in is being consistently inconsistent. So I'm looking for us to be very aggressive in grabbing either that edge rusher or that defensive tackle that we bona fide know that is getting the job done.
Well, there's a lot to it, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be kind of with you. There's my brain is spinning right now. Are we gonna, if you're a Falcon fan, are you gonna go with a secondary, a cornerback, the best one available, a safety, probably the best one on the board? Are you gonna go with a defensive lineman, a tackle, perhaps, or an edge rusher? You got outside linebackers. That's just one side of the ball, and then you throw out the possibility of having a great tackle that's available. Right. Wide receiver might be a possibility. So many different places that you could go if you're a Falcon fan. Yeah. But we've discussed that, and we'll know a little bit more after about 28 hours from now. It all gets started at 8 o'clock tomorrow. Emmanuel McFarland has been our guest today. Emmanuel, how do people get in touch with you? I know you have the Come On In Sports Network, but where do they want to go specifically if they want to watch your podcasts, which are exclusive, which talk about Atlanta? You are live and local, so to speak. You're just like the evening news when it comes to your podcast.
Oh, most certainly. I can be found on Atlanta Falcons Fandemic on YouTube, all platforms, as a matter of fact. I can also be found on other creators, YouTube creators, podcasts. There are a lot of them out there, and I try to get on everybody's because I love talking Falcon football, and that's how I got started doing this. I mean, everywhere I go, grocery store, to the gym, to service, I'm talking Falcon football, and that's how I got started doing this. My wife encouraged me to do it. She's like, you talking to everybody. Why don't you just talk to the world? Get on YouTube and talk to the world since you like talking about Falcons football, and do that. So that's why I started doing my podcast, Atlanta Falcons Fandemic. It's on every platform, and all you have to do is just type it up, Atlanta Falcons Fandemic, and I'll be found.
You mentioned something real quick there, if you don't mind me saying. Your wife, of all people, and let's give her credit for helping promote this with you, and just you do it naturally anyways. And in an era where people were wondering what to do after the pandemic or whatever, were there certain technological difficulties? Like, I don't really know what to do to
Right.
get a content on a SIM card in a camera onto a network like YouTube? Were there
Right.
some things that you needed to overcome, some hurdles, so to speak, that once you did it, you found, hey, that's not nearly as hard as I thought it was? Give us
Right.
your description.
Well, I was fortunate enough to get on the coattail of a couple of other podcasters. I got invited to one of the podcaster shows, and I was like, "Hey, this might be a niche." And I usually just sit back in my office, and like I said, I have my own business, so I while I'm doing invoices on the computer on my TV, I'm looking at YouTube podcasts, Falcon podcasts, and I'm like, "Hey." And I made a comment one day on somebody else's podcast. I got invited on, and it just went from there. And after that, I just hit the record button on StreamYard and start recording.
Wow.
But and a lot of people think, and there is a lot of work behind it. There's a lot of work. I'm not going to shortchange it. But if you have the heart to want to talk about something, and we call it a niche in the podcast world, if you have the heart and the knowledge to talk about something that you're adamant about, just hit record and just start talking.
Yeah.
At some point, somebody's going to come on and say, "Hey, I like what you said." It starts with one person liking a video. Whether it be one person liking a video or 10,000, somebody heard your voice. Somebody's going to talk about you to the next person, to the next person. And that's how I got started with rubbing shoulders with other people. That's how I found you guys. Finding good people that you want to relate to, talking about something that you love talking about.
So simple, whether it's music, movies, sports, doesn't matter. And your passion, obviously, for the Falcons has been genuine for just about your entire life, right? You go back to where you mentioned the Steve Bartkowski 75 draft, but the experience then back in the early to mid 70s, but you became a fan back in those days, right?
I most certainly did. I was there when it was announced that Terry, I was only 8 years old. And I was there when it was announced that Steve Bartkowski was going to get drafted. And being at 8 years old, I just hear the place erupt. And at that time, I did not know what that meant, until I became like 10 years old, 10, 11, 12 years old, when I started playing football myself. And when I realized what that meant, I could hear that echoing all the time. And that's what I wanted to hear, my name being called in the lights and hearing the crowd roaring my name. But to go back and relive that moment, and by the time I got through that moment, I was there when William Andrews got called and it erupted. And that's the first recollection of hope that I saw in the city of Atlanta of us being able to get to the playoffs. Because up until that point, we had no chance of hitting the playoffs. But when they named Steve Bartkowski as that quarterback, that whole place just erupted. Like, I mean, my goodness, I'm feeling the chills right now just thinking about it.
Yeah.
And the one game that sticks in my brain, and it will always be remembered, is when the Dallas Cowboys came in here and ruined the playoff chances for Steve Bartkowski.
January 4th, 1981, right?
Yeah.
January 4th.
Yeah. But my first memorable game was against the San Francisco 49ers, which we won that game. And that's when I knew then I was a Falcon. I was a Falcon. I had no doubt about it. I was a Falcon from then on. So credited to Mr. Steve Bartkowski. The following year, Mr. Andrews came along. And after that, all I had to do was run home and turn on the TV on and wait for the game to come on. I used to sit there and wait. And Mom used to say, I'm watching my stuff on TV.
Nope.
Mama realized how much of a fan I was. She said, "Don't nobody touch the TV," because at the time the TV that we had wasn't the best. It'll play for a little while and it'll go out. Play for a little while and go out. And during the game, it just so happened that it went off right about the halftime mark, and then it ready to come back on in third quarter round. And oh my goodness, you couldn't move me in front of the TV if I was not there. Yeah.
Hey, did you ever have the rabbit ears where you had to have your brother or someone hold the stick and then someone else have their arm up in the air?
Most certainly. I think we used to have to change out the aluminum foil on the rabbit ears.
Oh, the aluminum foil on the coat hanger, right? The metal coat hanger.
Exactly. But it worked.
Yeah.
But ever since then, I've been a fan. I mean, there. If I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't change it even to this day. I've had a ball on this journey so far. I enjoy talking to Falcon fans. Like the one of the platforms that I'm on now, there are 3 Saints fans on that platform.
Uh-oh.
Oh, we have. Oh my goodness, we have a ball on that thing. It's all trash talk, but it's all love. I know where I haven't had a chance to go to a game in New Orleans this year or last year, or the year for the last 3 years. So, and I understand that the hype has gotten even more so. So I have to make plans to start going back. But it's all love. It's all love. I tell you what. How you remember when we beat the Philadelphia Eagles this year and how that felt, and how when at first the Eagles had this hope that they were going to beat us, and you looked across the stadium, you saw nothing but green jerseys. But when Drake London scored that touchdown, the green jerseys was like seated or standing, but you could see specks of white jerseys. Those were Falcon fans. At first, you couldn't see them.
No.
But that feeling that we won that game is the same feeling I had when they announced Steve Bartkowski.
Yeah. Well, when Saquon Barkley dropped that pass, that little screen pass, and there was no one within 100 yards of him, he would have scored. Yeah. I bet the 7 or 8 Falcon fans that wore their jerseys were all standing up, and they get one loud yell, but then they sat back down real quick so they wouldn't have the hot dog wrapper hit him in the back of the head.
Exactly. Yes, there's a fellow podcaster who's become a friend of mine. He hosts One Time for the Fan, and he was actually there at that game, and the camera was panning around, and we actually spotted him standing up there in the vestibule. And he was letting those fans have it. And I mean, I actually feared for their life. We got on there and we stayed on the podcast with him because he started podcasting from Philadelphia.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
And we was like, hey man, look, stay on, man, because if something happened, at least we have footage of, if anything happens. But they were letting them have it. But they knew what it was. It was all hype. It was love. So beating the Philadelphia Eagles, that was, oh my goodness. I know he was living on top of the world at that point.
Yeah, they are not there. It is not the city of brotherly love, although they say that they've got it. They were one of the few stadiums that had a jail in the bowels of it back in the day,
wow.
the old vet.
Wow.
But yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, winning on the road, there's nothing like it, is there?
Oh, most certainly. It's even more so than being at home. Yeah. Especially when you're playing in a city like Philadelphia, playing in a city like Pittsburgh, these places where it's hard to play. I wish we had beat Kansas City. This place would have erupted if we had done that.
Yeah,
but,
no kidding.
Yeah, when you're playing against tough teams like that and you manage to edge out a win, it's always a great feeling. Always, especially on the road.
You mentioned the Steve Bartkowski experience. Take me to the 2004 playoff game at Green Bay in the snow.
Yeah.
And even John Madden, who was doing the game, says, I've been in Green Bay for a lot of games, and I've never heard the home crowd boo this team. And they got booed off the field at halftime. Remember that?
Yeah, exactly. It was. I imagine that would have been tough. As a player, having to hear that. But that's one of those things that happens. I found out too that Cleveland actually have it worse. They actually have people to sit there and receive letters because they when Cleveland was on their so-called rebuild and they couldn't win a game, they were actually getting death threats. So letters were coming in. That was back during the anthrax scare. Actually had people come in with gloves, masks, and everything, opening up letters because they were receiving so many death threats. Mm-hmm. And I hope we as Atlanta Falcon fans, we never get like that.
Yeah.
That would be a scary moment. I hope we never boo our team. I don't think it's part of the game. It's part about being a fan. I hope we never boo our team. We cheer them on no matter what happens, whether we win or lose. Yes, we can talk bad about our own team, but we're not gonna let nobody else do it either. So right. Yeah, but to sit there and boo your team off the field, man, I just don't, I wouldn't, I don't condone that one. I don't like that. I think we fall short. It's not like we have a record of winning Super Bowls. It's a building process, and it's still a building process. So, and I know everybody's antsy. We're ready for a Super Bowl for here in Atlanta, but I wouldn't go as far as to boo your team off the field. That's total. You might as well go ahead and just stop being a fan, go someplace else and be a fan.
Yeah, no kidding. Vincent.
Outstanding today. Learned a lot about the Atlanta Falcons. Moved to the Atlanta area in 1896. And I thought I knew enough Atlanta Falcons football history. But this gentleman, one thing I can love about him in this show today, the passion. He is a true diehard Atlanta Falcons fan.
Yes.
And we are blessed to have Mr. McFarland here today on 100 Yards of Football. Back to you, Mr. Harper LeBel.
Yeah, Emmanuel, I got to say thank you for being a guest, one, on the show, and two, for supporting and loving the team as far back as just about anybody. There's a few folks that say, yeah, I go back to the 60s. Not many, but there's been a lot of tough times, haven't there? There have been a lot of where you shake your head.
Yeah.
But you made mention of it just a moment ago. It's like family, right? And I've put it this way. Everyone has an Uncle Mikey.
Yeah.
And Uncle Mikey's the one who can't keep his job, and he's been divorced, and he's had a tough life. But no one else can talk bad about Uncle Mikey. He's my uncle, right? He's family.
Yeah, that's right.
If you say something bad about him, we're going to go to blows.
Right.
So that's there's plenty of inter-family struggles, but everybody else is removed from that. You don't let non-family be a part of that conversation. We want Uncle Mikey to get it right, but doggone it, tough times have abounded, but hopefully there's a light on the horizon here for the Atlanta Falcons, and it might even get a little bit brighter if they make the correct pick here in the 2025 draft.
Most certainly. I look forward to, I can't wait. I think I'll be on, we will be on during the entire first round of the draft. I don't know about the second or even the third. I think we're going to do the first two rounds. We probably won't do the third, fourth, because, the Falcons don't have a pick, but and I know it's not all about the Falcons, but for me, it's all about the Falcons. But guys, I appreciate it, the opportunity to come on with you guys. The historian, Vincent Turner, you being an ex-Falcon player, it's been an honor, truly. Even to talk to you guys away from the camera, the genuine, I feel it, I see it, I felt it, but it's been truly an honor, and I appreciate you guys having me on.
Well, Emmanuel McFarland has been our guest, ladies and gentlemen. It's Falcons Fandemic is the name of the show that he has, and it's the Come On In Sports Network that you can tune in to any of the previous podcasts that he's had, as well as the upcoming ones. We're going to have a draft show for tomorrow as well. We'd appreciate you tuning in for that. So we'll take care of this by now. We've talked about the Atlanta Falcons in specific. We've talked about the NFC South. We looked at some of the top picks and all of the possibilities. It'll all come into fruition here tomorrow evening, starting at 8 o'clock. So wherever you go for your draft coverage, we certainly appreciate you wanting to know more about football and listening to the perspectives of people like Vincent Turner and Emmanuel McFarland. So I want to say thank you to Logan Landers, our producer and engineer. Thank you, Logan, for putting a great show together. For Emmanuel McFarland, for being a fantastic guest. We'll have you back on again as soon as we can, Emmanuel. And for our host and our founder here at 100 Yards of Football, Vincent Turner, we want to say thank you for tuning in to the show, everybody. We hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. From here with 100 Yards of Football, we appreciate you being a part of the show.